So, let's dive into something pretty incredible. The source material points to this hidden system running inside the Quran. It's like a perfect circuit of cosmic balance. And we're not just talking about stories here. Think of it more like a spiritual physics engine. Let's dig in and see how it all works.
Okay, so the whole thing really hangs on this one elegant idea, a universal law of balance. The suggestion is that every single action has a perfect and equal reaction. And this isn't random, it's by design. Right at the heart of this design, you find this incredible symmetry between two totally opposing forces.
So what we're going to do is try to map this whole system out. And the way we'll do that is by looking at its two most powerful opposing figures. You've got Ibrahim, who is the model of submission, and then you have Iblīs, the very embodiment of pride. If we can just understand how they function, we can start to see the entire machine in action.
All right, let's get right to it. The fundamental choice, the exact point where these two paths split. It all kicks off with a question from one side and a claim from the other.
Just look at the starting points here. It's so revealing, right? Ibrahim starts with this humble question. He's looking out at the universe, trying to figure out what's real. But Iblīs, he starts with a prideful claim about himself, an assertion of superiority. So you've got one path that seeks to understand reality and another that tries to impose its own version on it. A huge difference.
Okay, so let's follow Ibrahim's path for a minute. The source material lays out his journey not just as some story from the past, but as something else, like a repeatable protocol, a method for aligning with a truth that never changes.
And this procedure is really methodical. First, Ibrahim looks around and sees that all the powers he can perceive, the stars, the moon, the sun, they're all temporary. I mean, they rise, but they also set. That simple observation leads him to the next step. He turns away from all that temporary stuff and orients himself toward the one permanent source. And then, finally, he offers a sacrifice, but with zero pride, just pure submission. That's what locks in his alignment.
And here's the really crucial point. When Ibrahim is thrown into that fire, and the fire is commanded to become coolness and safety, well, the framework here says that's not just some random miracle. It's actually a legal consequence. Think about that. Once pride is gone and your orientation is straight, things like the fire of coercion, they just lose their power over you. They lose their jurisdiction.
Okay, now let's flip to the other side of the circuit. We need to see how the system creates that perfect balance. And to do that, we have to look at the function of Iblīs.
The source material has this really powerful phrase for this, propped up timbers. It's describing a specific state, something that looks impressive on the outside, but it's completely hollow. It's just form with no life inside. And this is presented as the very essence of pride, a rigid structure totally cut off from a living spirit. Now this is the key insight, so listen close. The role of Iblīs isn't to create chaos or break the rules. No, his function is totally lawful. By becoming the embodiment of pride, he literally freezes and separates things. He becomes the perfect, static witness to the act of rejection. So you see, he's not fighting the system, he's actually completing it by showing everyone what the consequence of pride is.
So, what happens when we put these two functions right next to each other? Well, that's when you see the perfection of the system. It's a flawless action-reaction mechanism.
And the symmetry is just perfect. Ibrahim's action, he offers a sacrifice. Iblīs' action, he claims his own purity. Ibrahim's job is to connect and inherit light. Iblīs' job is to separate and witness rejection. And the outcome? The fire becomes cool for Ibrahim. But Iblīs, he himself becomes the barrier. He becomes that hijab, that veil that separates people from the truth.
So the operational difference is actually really simple. Imagine you're faced with a test, like the command to sacrifice the cow. The path of pride gets stuck. It starts questioning, interrogating the form of the command, why this, why now? But the path of righteousness, like Ibrahim just offering the calf, it simply trusts, does the action, and moves on. It's that simple.
And the consequence for choosing pride's path? You inherit a hijab. But it's not something put on you from the outside. It's a self-imposed veil that literally blocks you from seeing reality as it is. When you get obsessed with the external shell, you lose the ability to see the spirit inside. And through it all, that cosmic balance is perfectly maintained.
All right, let's zoom back out. Let's see how this whole duality creates that universal, unbreakable law we talked about at the beginning. So here it is, the closed circuit. It starts with pride.
That initial choice lawfully automatically leads to separation from the source. This separation then kind of hardens, it crystallizes into a witness, that static form we talked about, which testifies to its own rejection. And that very active witnessing completes the whole system, sealing the lawful return to a perfect balance. See? Nothing is ever out of place.
So the takeaway is pretty stark, and it's crystal clear. The choice is always between form and substance. You get stuck on the external form, you inherit a veil. You pass through the test of sacrifice, you inherit direct access to light without any barriers. The system is perfectly just. It always gives you back exactly what you put in.
And that really leaves us with one final thought. If this lawful circuit is a real operating principle of the universe, what does that mean for us in our own lives? I mean, every moment gives us a choice, doesn't it? We can either question reality to try and understand it, like Ibrahim, or we can assert our own version on top of it, like Iblīs. And according to this whole framework, the outcome of that choice, well, it's not random, it's law.